Beneath the blood mine. The night I returned home, the air was thick with the cloying scent of regret and disbelief, a miasma that clung to the front porch like a forgotten memory. I stood there, the ghost of a child they once knew, but 10 years had transformed me into something they wouldn't recognize, not just in appearance, but in essence. I could hear them laughing inside, their voices rising above the muffled roar of the wind, filled with disbelief, with judgment. They had been right once. I had lost my mind, but what I had found beneath that soil was terror beyond their wildest imagination. I rapped my knuckles against the door, the sound reverberating like a death knell. Each echo was a reminder of the scorn they heaped on me for years. "You're insane," they'd said. "Unhealthy. Delusional." I had embarrassed the family with my obsession, with my pitiful journals filled with maps of cursed territories and accounts of haunted architecture. I had chased shadows through darkened tunnels, digging deeper into the folklore that surrounded mining rites and rituals, hidden in the very veins of the earth. But the stories I had unearthed were not mere tales. They were warnings. I had been mocked for pursuing the truth that others were too fearful to even whisper. Now, I was armed with the knowledge that could either save or damn their souls. The door creaked open. My mother's face was a canvas of surprise and horror. "You?" she gasped, her eyes widening as she stepped back, glancing over her shoulder at the dim corridor where the family had gathered. They had all come, drawn to the spectacle of my return like moths to a flickering flame. My father's brow furrowed in disbelief, and my brother could barely stifle a laugh, perhaps thinking this was some sort of twisted joke. "Shut the door," I said, my voice low and gravelly, each word an incantation. "You need to listen to me. What I've found," my father interrupted, "is authority laced with that familiar disdain. You're back to peddle your fairy tales? We've moved on, haven't we?" "Moved on?" I echoed, a chill creeping into my tone. "You have no idea what you're inviting back into your lives. I've seen things, felt them, things that have slumbered beneath the blood mine." At the mention of the blood mine, an infamous site of tragedy and whispers, an uneasy silence settled like fog. They had laughed when I warned them about the deaths, the disappearances linked to ancient rituals buried deep below. They thought I was a joke, but I had been the one who lived to tell the tale. "Why are you here then?" my brother sneered, fidgeting with faux bravado. "You've come to tell us you're a genius?" "No," I said, stepping over the threshold, the dim light casting shadows that danced around me like specters. "I've come to show you the truth that you chose to ignore." "Show us?" my mother asked skeptically, crossing her arms tightly against her chest. "What could you possibly show us?" That's when I summoned it, a memory born of fear made manifest. I reached into my bag and pulled out an ancient talisman, its surface engraved with runes that pulsed with an unearthly energy, the very essence of the darkness I had traversed. "This is a doorway," I whispered, letting the weight of my discovery hang in the air. A flicker of disbelief crossed my family's faces, and I could sense a shift in the atmosphere. Anxiety rippled through them. "What have you done?" my father muttered beneath his breath, a trace of concern breaking the armor of his pride. "Something you'll understand soon enough," I replied, raising the talisman. "This is what the miners of the blood mine worshipped. They revered it, and their reverence awakened something deep in the earth. An entity that should have remained asleep." A sudden crash echoed from the depths of the house, the unmistakable sound of something heavy falling. My family jolted, their faces drained of color as the lights flickered ominously. "What was that?" my mother stammered, her facade of skepticism cracking. "It's the veil thinning," I said, my heart racing. "This place is riddled with the echoes of what lurks beneath. You invited it with your disbelief." In that moment, the air grew colder. and shadows danced around us more frantically, as if they were alive. The talisman began to hum, vibrating in my hand, each pulse resonating with a sinister energy. "We need to leave," my brother shouted, panic flaring in his eyes. But it was too late. The shadows coalesced, forming a figure, a grotesque entity, its features a swirling mass of anguish and rage, birthed from the suffering that had been ignored for too long. It towered above us, whispering in a voice that was both a lullaby and a lament, the sound cutting through the air like a knife. "You mocked us," it intoned, the shadows swirling around my family, encasing them in an inescapable grip. "You cast aside the very stories that begged to be heard." Terror swallowed their bravado whole as they faced the undeniable manifestation of their ridicule. I felt a pang of regret for what they were becoming. Mere puppets dancing on the strings of their disbelief. But I had warned them, had pleaded for them to see, and now there was no turning back. As the entity closed in, I held the talisman high. "I know your pain. I've survived you," I shouted, the talisman thrumming violently, fighting back against the darkness. The specter hesitated, its form rippling with uncertainty, and in that moment I felt a surge of connection, a kind of recognition. I had faced the abyss, unearthing truths that shattered my sanity, and now it was my time to act. "Leave them be!" I roared, channeling every ounce of my will, pushing back against the dark with everything I had learned. "You will not take them!" The entity let out a howl that shook the very foundations of the home, a sound of fury and despair mingling into a storm. I felt my family's fear, their regret exposing the raw truth beneath their mocking laughter. With a final surge of energy, I summoned the ancient rites I had studied, drawing upon the power of the talisman. The shadows recoiled, the entity's form flickering like a candle in the wind. "You will not be dismissed again," I declared, and with an explosive burst, the darkness imploded, vanishing into nothingness. Breathless, I turned to my family. They stood huddled together, eyes wide with horror and realization. They had witnessed firsthand the weight of their disbelief, the cost of their ridicule, and in that moment I saw the truth reflected in their eyes, the understanding that I had not been mad nor delusional, but a bearer of harsh reality. And just like that, I knew I had achieved something greater than any academic recognition. I had proven them wrong in the most visceral way possible. Their disbelief had summoned the darkness, and while they were free, they would forever bear the memory of what they had ignored. As I turned to leave, stepping back into the realm I had come from, I felt the shadows whisper a haunting promise. I would carry the weight of this moment with me, a reminder of their scorn and the truth that had been unearthed. What I had endured would never be forgotten, and in their hearts, they would forever dwell on the chilling lesson of what lay beneath the blood mine. Okay, I can generate a horror story based on your prompt, but perhaps you'd enjoy listening to some chilling tales while I craft that story for you? Dive into a world of horror with audiobooks.com homepage. You can explore a vast library of horror titles, perfect for setting the mood, and enjoy listening on your devices while you read or write. Start your free trial today and unlock a selection of free audiobooks and exclusive benefits to fuel your imagination. It could be a great source of inspiration or just a way to enhance the experience.